Welcome to People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.
Immigration has always been an essential part of the story of the United States. Today is certainly no exception. We are joined by a special guest, Marco Guzman, Senior Policy Analyst with the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, or ITEP, a forward-thinking nonprofit research organization that released the report Tax Payments by Undocumented Immigrants. The report points out that these taxes help fund Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, and other federal programs that those working illegally in the U.S. are barred from receiving. Welcome. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, can you give us a brief overview of your organization?
Certainly. Our organization is a nonprofit tax policy think tank, and we focus on both federal and state tax policy.
Okay, so can you briefly summarize the key findings of your study on undocumented immigrants and their tax contributions?
Yeah, so we took a look at the population of undocumented immigrants in 2022. We determined that of the 10.9 million undocumented immigrants, we found that they paid a combined almost $97 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. Over $59 billion of that was paid to the federal government, while over a little over $37 billion, was paid to state and local governments.
So, what motivated your organization to conduct this research on the tax payments of undocumented immigrants?
Yeah, so this report is actually an update of a popular report that we put out in 2017. In 2017, we focused only on the state and local tax contributions of undocumented immigrants. But this year, we were able to kind of really increase that research, and we were able to provide what we feel is the most thorough examination to date of the federal, state, and local tax payments made by undocumented immigrants. And we hope this report will shed light on this often overlooked aspect of the immigration policy debate.
Very good. So, looking at tax contributions, the study estimates that undocumented immigrants paid about $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022. What are the primary components of these tax contributions?
Yeah, so that total is primarily made up of state and local taxes, which comprises about $37.3 billion of that $96.7 billion. Federal social insurance taxes and federal income tax payments, which make up about $19.5 billion, and then some other smaller federal taxes.
And Mr. Guzman, how do tax contributions of undocumented immigrants compare to those of documented immigrants or U.S. citizens? Your report indicates that undocumented immigrants often pay higher state and local tax rates than the top 1% of households. So what factors do you think contribute to this disparity?
Yeah, at the state and local level, we do find that 40 states, undocumented immigrants pay a higher average, or what is known as an effective tax rate, than the top 1% living in those states. So that average tax rate is taken by taking the amount of taxes undocumented immigrants pay and dividing that by their income. And then you see how much taxes, state and local taxes, make up as a share of their income. And this is primarily because many states and localities rely on sales and excise taxes. And those taxes are very regressive taxes, meaning that the lower income you have, the more you pay as a share of your income in those taxes. So they pay sales and excise taxes at the state level. They pay property taxes either as homeowners or even as renters. And then they also pay personal and business income taxes as well.
Okay, so looking at the impact of payroll taxes, your study highlights that a significant portion of undocumented immigrants' tax payment goes towards payroll taxes for programs they cannot access, such as Social Security and Medicare. How does this impact the overall funding and sustainability of these programs?
Yeah, it's commonly understood that undocumented immigrants help contribute to the solvency of many of these social insurance programs that many of us citizens benefit from or will benefit from. We find that undocumented immigrants via some income and payroll taxes paid $25.7 billion in Social Security taxes, $6.4 billion in Medicare taxes, and $1.8 billion in unemployment insurance taxes, which means that more than a third of the tax dollars paid by undocumented immigrants go toward programs that they are actually prohibited from accessing, as you mentioned.
Okay, so based on your opinion, I should say, in your opinion, what are the implications of undocumented immigrants paying into Social Security and Medicare without receiving benefits from these programs?
Yeah, undocumented immigrants effectively face a harsher tax code than citizens. They are not, as mentioned, able to benefit from these federal social insurance programs that are vital to so many elderly retirees and older and sick Americans who rely on things like Medicare. Also, we can see that they are also not eligible for things like the federal earned income tax credit or the federal child tax credit if their child does not have a Social Security number as well. So that also takes away from the potential benefits that they could be receiving, especially if they are low income.
Okay, the overall quality of life.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so taking a look at policy implications, how would providing work authorization to undocumented immigrants affect their tax contributions and overall tax compliance? What would be the potential economic impact?
Yeah, so in this report, we run a scenario in which we grant these undocumented immigrants with legal status and work authorization. And we see from our research that this legal status would, one, lessen barriers to complying with existing income tax laws, which would also, which contributes to their increased tax contributions. And two, we find data that demonstrates that that immigrants with employment authorization actually earn higher wages than undocumented immigrants. So those undocumented immigrants would see a boost in their wages. And this all amounts to showing that from our research, their federal or their overall tax contributions would increase by $40 billion per year. So from 97 to about $137 billion. And about 33 billion of that would go to the federal government, while about 7 billion of that would go to states and localities.
There's a lot of negativity surrounding immigrants, in particular undocumented immigrants. When we look at public perception, how do you think the findings of this study might influence public opinion or policy debates about immigration?
Yeah, our goal wasn't to provide any specific recommendations with this report, but we hope that this report will provide some much needed clarity and accuracy to this very complex debate that is the immigration debate. We also include in our report some information on the demographics of undocumented immigrants and kind of give you an idea of how they live. Many of these undocumented immigrants live in households that are considered mixed legal status. So that means about a total of 12 million US citizens, including about 6 million children, actually live in a household with mixed legal status, meaning there may be likely an undocumented immigrant living in that household. So you can see, not just from the economic perspective, which this report really highlights, how potentially destabilizing it would be if these undocumented immigrants were kind of round up en masse and shipped out of the country. But you can also see from a humanitarian perspective how destabilizing that would be for families.
And finally, what message do ITEP hope policymakers and the public take away from your research on undocumented immigrants and their tax contributions? What would be your message?
Yeah, I think the message is quite clear, and it's that undocumented immigrants are here in the US and they work and they pay taxes just like anybody else. They pay federal and state and local taxes that help contribute to many of the programs that we all benefit from.
Okay, and how can one access the report and learn more about your organization, the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy?
Yeah, you can visit our website. It's itep.org, and you can find the report along with a lot of other helpful tax-related information as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Marco Guzman, Senior Policy Analyst with ITEP, for being here and sharing this great information with our audience.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
People, power, and politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's people, power, and politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.